Dr. Rajeev comes from a mechanical engineering background and has pursued his Master of Sciences in Mechanical Engineering and a PhD in Material Sciences. So he has also completed his Global MBA from UNC Ken Flagger Business School. So he's an entrepreneur, business leader, currently working with a company called Calpine, who are into energy industry, headquartered in Houston, Texas. So he'll be explaining us today how geospatial analytics and drones can transform the industry needs and the opportunities what we have for the young generation and the professionals who are in the industry already. Thank you so much, Rajiv. So the stage is all yours. You can go ahead with your presentation.
All right. Thank you very much for the introduction. Is my audio clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let me start sharing my screen here. All right. You guys able to see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So thanks for the opportunity to share what I know and what I've been experiencing here in the United States, but also all over the world in the field of geospatial AI. So what I would like to do is provide an overall perspective, if you want to call that, in terms of how geospatial AI is being used in various industries. And then what are the opportunities, as Jayshankar pointed out. So just to recap, those are the two things that we will be focusing on. With that said, I want this to be a two-way communication. So with that said, I need to have some volunteers who I can pick on as we go through the presentation. And can I have some names? Who wants to provide any opinion? Again, think of it as mutual exchange of information, right? We are sharing what we know, but we also would like to see what others are thinking. So who can help? Any volunteers? Before I start picking anybody randomly. All right, so what I can do, let me go to the list. Maybe I'll go ahead and pick someone randomly. So I don't have the names here. What is the best way to get the names? Okay, here. Maybe I can pick on Kamala. Kamala, get ready for any feedback. And then I also can get opinions from Michael. Humdrum Michael Singh. Is he available? All right, so what we will do, we will, I'll probably pick a name here from this list and then we will go from there, okay? So let's move on with my presentation. So here is the outline. We'll start with quick objectives, what one can expect to get from this, and then followed by that, what exactly is geospatial AI? When you actually look at Google it, what do you find? What is a comprehensive definition? And then use cases, as I said. But the other part, would say, the later part of the presentation will be focused on what does it take to build a geospatial AI product-oriented company from an entrepreneurial perspective, as well as a business leader for an established startup. So we'll talk about that as well. And then finally, the most important thing I would call it is how do we prepare for the future, the geospatial AI future, and then followed by that any actions as well. Little bit about me. As Jayshankar pointed out, I grew up in southern India, and then I got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and I came to United States to pursue my graduate studies. And I got my master's and PhD here, and then I worked in aerospace. I also worked in automotive startup in LA. And then I also worked in energy industry, specifically utilities, but I also have entrepreneurial experience in oil and gas. And currently work for Calpine. And what we do, we operate plants, power plants, geothermal and natural gas plants all over the country, about $25 billion worth of assets. It's a Fortune 300 company. So the revenues are in the range of $10 to $12 billion. And my goal is to optimize the value of the assets. What does that really mean, right? When you say optimization of value, we would like to gain more, right? Produce more from these machines by spending less. It's really that simple. How can I understand? How can I identify any weak links? How can I identify any plants that are not going to perform well? And then that is the business objective. How do we get there? We use a lot of data, 5-minute data. I would say hundreds of thousands of sensors over the fleet, all over the fleet that is sending the information, and then the goal is to synthesize that into something useful for the business. That's in a nutshell. So with that said, let's jump into what is geospatial AI. So that's where I started with. So when I started making the slides, I felt like, okay, I need to start high level into how is that being defined today. I would say it's emerging scientific discipline. It's emerging as most of these new technologies are, that actually combines innovations in various things. So the key is combination here. That's the reason why I highlighted it. And why is it important? Spatial science, artificial intelligence, data mining, high performance computing, all of those are already changing, right? In the last 5 to 10 years, every vertical there that I talked about that you can read here is changing. Sometimes even every week, if not every month, right? So the technologies are changing, the computational power is changing, the ability to mine data is changing. But now what we are talking about is combine all of them and then build a solution on the top of it, right? Build product solutions on the top of it. That is why you have to look at, if you want to be part of this, it's exciting. With that said, that is exciting. However, to be part of it, you got to have that mindset. You got to be thinking about it like that. It is an ever-changing field, fast-paced, but also be willing to learn about the new things and go from there. So combination of various things, and it's emerging. That is what I gather from this. Now, I would like to, before I go further, I want everybody to take their mobile phones or tablets or whatever device and go to this survey website, slido.com, and then enter this code, that website. And then I am going to release the tab here in a minute. Let me stop sharing for a minute and then I'll bring it back. Right, present in a new tab. That should probably work. Okay, I'm gonna bring the screen back, but in the meanwhile, please go ahead and get on Slido and start using Is everyone there on Slido? I'm going to give a few seconds. Slido.com and then use this number 435876. Again, 435876. If you want to use QR code, that's okay. If you want to go to website, that's okay. I'm assuming people are there. So who's going to volunteer? Can somebody tell me if you're there?
Yes, Rajeev.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. So now this poll should show up for you guys. And the question is, what are the possible geospatial applications that you can think of? And I want you to go ahead and select. All right, I see the responses coming in. Perfect. More. I like the participation. Nice. Perfect. So a lot of people are aware of pipeline monitoring, it looks like. And then methane emissions, I'm impressed. A lot of people also are aware of that. Methane emissions as a geospatial applications as well. Very nice. And agri-tech is another one. Jayshankar briefly touched on that. Okay, we'll probably give a few more seconds to see if there are any. Yeah, there are more coming in. Okay. So as you can see, pipeline monitoring, a lot of people are aware of that. By the way, this is multi-selection, guys. I know I intentionally didn't mention it. So if anybody wants to go back and reselect, if you know about more, feel free to select more. It's a multi-select type of poll. Nice. Great. Beautiful. So I think we got a pretty decent sample here. So people are aware of pipeline monitoring, people are aware of forestry, agri-tech, and protecting land assets is a newer thing. And I'm glad about 50% of you guys already know that. But as Jayshankar already covered, that is something where every citizen can take advantage of the technology and protect their hard-earned assets, right? So spread the word and do whatever you have to do, but I would say that is a good one. So with that said, I'm gonna stop this for now, and then let's go back to the presentation. We'll come back to this, by the way. So don't close the windows or anything. We will come back to this. People are waiting in the lobby, so Dilip, if you can take care of that. Okay. Thank you for your participation. That was very helpful. So since a lot of you guys talked about the geospatial AI application in oil and gas, let's talk about that briefly. And then how does it really help the industry and the business is where I'm focusing on. And as you know, this is Landsdoctor logo. So thank you for Landsdoctor team to help me to let me use that. But here is a application. The first thing is, as you can see, this is the waterway, seashore, where IOC, the Indian Oil Corporation, has the ability or has the requirement or need of transporting the compounds, the hydrocarbons, I would call it, across a 12-mile pipeline. I want to say, and this is in Kandla, Gujarat, by the way. This picture is in Kandla, Gujarat. This is a 12-kilometer pipeline, 12 kilometers actually. It's not 12 miles. I'm familiar with the system here, but it is kilometers. And this pipeline is located about 1.5 to 1.8 meter above the ground surface. So it's above the ground. That is the other thing. That's the advantage for an application like this. And it's continuously under manual surveillance. Think about that, manual. So somebody has to be there for the 12-kilometer pipeline, and then they also have day and night surveillance. So now the question is, when we were talking to the leaders at IOC, their point is that seems more archaic, right? If you can see the practice, since it's above the ground, what can we do to improve the business reason, if you want to call it, right? So what was done here? There was a image acquisition. So we use drones that go in a periodic basis. It can be in every hour, it can be 4 hours, whatever the frequency is that is decided by the leadership, day and night across 24 hours. And then it will go collect the data, and then it will, and then we actually collect thermal imagery. So that the reason why we picked thermal imagery is to distinguish between the humans versus the pipeline, meaning humans has a specific thermal characteristic that you can actually use to pick, and that is what we are using here. So once the drones capture the images, we take the image, we apply machine learning to identify any humans or any activity, and then inform the leadership. That is pretty much the application in a nutshell. But what are the benefits? Let's go into that in a minute. Let's go a little bit more touch on each and every benefit, if I may. As Jayshankar pointed out, health and safety. This is one thing that oil and gas as an industry is getting better, but there is a lot of opportunity and a lot of room to still improve. So, for example, if there is any thermal characteristic, let's call it, that changed over time within the pipeline, you can also identify that, right? So ultimately it will help the health and safety of the workers, the communities around that pipeline, which is even more important, and IOC being partly owned or funded by the national, the government and the taxpayers to an extent indirectly. We also own the safety of the assets and the communities and the people around us. So this would be a great way to identify things before it happens, not after, but as they change, as the thermal characteristics change. If there is a safety issue, immediate notification happens, and then the leadership will be able to do what is necessary now that they have the information in real time. Next, maintenance cost reduction. As we all know, humans can get redundant, humans can get complacent. There is a possibility that we need to carry these manual costs, right? So by doing this, you're actually obviously doing a one-time capital investment, but the ability to do what they're doing with the Geo AI would result in lower maintenance cost. That's really what it is. Revenue protection, what does this mean? So as you guys know, there can be leaks, there can be theft, whether we like it or not, that is a reality. And then this will help us identify the possible revenue losses. So when we say revenue losses, protecting your assets ultimately leads to protecting your revenue, right? That's really what that means. So that is the other benefit. Operation excellence. What exactly is operation excellence? Doing more with less, produce more with lower cost. Isn't that what we are doing here? So what does that do also as a secondary benefit of operation excellence? You would be more attractive to your shareholders, to your communities, to everybody around you because of your operation excellence.